Abide, a short story on joy from the Lord, written by Ajane Dent. Navigating adulthood can be a struggle. It seems like within the blink of an eye, we go from bibs to barrettes to books to bills. Many times we forget to stop and smell the roses because we're so consumed with the worries of life. Take some time to listen to the story of Joy. Despite her name, she felt as though the only joy she had was when she drifted off to sleep. She was a young woman trying to find her way in a world where the impossible seemed out of reach. A couple of years ago in my early 20s, I used to wonder why my mother named me Joy. I would think of other names she could have named me. At that time, I would think to myself, she may as well have named me Bellina, or Billy, or ooh, Billerina, to keep the debt collectors on their toes, since bills were all that got addressed to my apartment, anyways. At that time, I wasn't even sure if the place I lived in was considered an apartment, or a livable one at least. The eggshell white walls in the 450 square fair apartment had more cracks than the plumber that came to fix my toilet at least once a month. The kitchens and cabinets hadn't been updated since the apartment complex was established in the 70s, and the water was either hot like deep south in August or iceberg cold, but never both at the same time. Sounds of kids arguing over swing sets and slides would often overpower the drama playing on my 24-inch TV. I sometimes complain to myself and say, this is why I'm not having kids. Some days after a long day of listening to customers yell at me about their cell phone bill at my call center job at the time, all I wanted to do was go home and drift off into a deep sleep where none of the issues of the waking world existed. One day I was closing the door to my dented up and bent up four-door aqua blue sedan. Well, it was gold and aqua blue if you count the bumper that I replaced. Those dang potholes. This old raggedy car, I said to myself while rolling my eyes. I went to check my mail, something I avoided for days until the mail lady routinely knocked on my door, begging me to take my mail out so she could put more in. I opened the small door to my mailbox, and out came a check for $1 million. I'm kidding. Out came bills and more bills. I looked up to the sky. Really? Give me a break. I'll admit, I was furious talking to God. I complained all the way up until I got in the house. I took a shower, put on my bonnet, and climbed in bed for the night. I imagine the people that lived below me were happy that I finally shut up at around 10 p.m. that night. While I laid under my dingy gray cotton blanket, I started to think about everyone I knew in my age group, all successful. At least that's what their social media told me. Yet here I was struggling to get by, cursed with bills that I had to rob Peter to pay Paul for, working for a job that one step above barely paid the bills, and driving a hoopty. But everyone else seemed to be excelling in life without a worry in the world. I was sick of it. I felt like God had it out for me. I laid in bed counting life struggles till I fell asleep instead of counting sheep. Number 15, still single. Number 16, student loans for a degree I can't use. Number 1, life. Num. As I drifted off into REM sleep, I heard a voice in the distance. Ah, you've made it, a voice behind me said to me. When I turned around, I saw in the distance a toffee hued man with flowing black curls to the middle of his back, dressed in a yellow satin suit. As I got closer, I realized this was a man I would see lately on my way to and from work. He sat at the park a few minutes away from my job. When I was on my way home after work earlier that day, I remember seeing him gently smiling at me. At that moment, I thought, what he so happy about? Now here he was standing before me. Who was this guy? And why was he in my dream? Are we in heaven? Or, hell? I couldn't help but wonder if I had died in my sleep. But maybe I wasn't in hell, because it seemed like I was in a fruitful place. I'm not trying to sound deep, but there was literally fruit everywhere. The man took a moment to laugh and then responded, you're not dead. And before you ask, no, I'm not Jesus, he said. Before I could ask any more questions, he gently took my hand and guided me through one of the most beautiful fruit gardens I'd seen. The garden was filled with so many different kinds of fruit, but what stood out the most was the vineyard section. I saw grapes of all sizes coming from branches, some small as a pea and some bigger than my fist. The grapevine was connected to one of the largest trees I'd ever seen, and the grapevine itself had to have ran longer than the Nile River. There were so many grapes growing on what must have been millions of branches. I also saw some branches falling off and disappearing. The fruitful branches had grapes that looked so ripe, so juicy, and so much better than any grapes I'd ever seen in my local grocery store, which I'm sure was sprayed with who knows what kind of chemicals. I reached out my hand to try one, but then the man popped my hand. Even him popping my hand was gentle. I've been popped by my mother plenty of times, but her pop showed no mercy. Joy, that's not your branch. Let me show you yours, he said as he guided me along a path. As we walked through the garden, I caught myself admiring a few of the grapes. The rain began to softly fall down. In real time, I saw the grapes begin to grow even more. Within a matter of minutes, the rain let up and the sun began to shine. As the sun hugged the grapes, the color of the grapes began to turn royal purple and became more vivid. I saw some of the branches being pruned in real time. And once they were pruned, even more fruit would grow. What a sight to behold. Finally, I noticed the man's bare feet came to a stop, and my attention was shifted to a branch in the corner of the garden. The branch looked like it was barely connected to the vine. The grapes on it looked so shriveled, like a dried up raisin. No juiciness like the other grapes. Instead of a vibrant royal purple color, the purple on these grapes were faded like my favorite purple cotton sweater when I washed it too many times last winter. I asked the man why weren't these grapes thriving like the rest? It refuses to grow, he said. I was a bit confused. How can a grape refuse to grow? It's a grape. He must have seen the confusion on my face. The sun comes to give life, the rain falls to nourish, and yet it still remains, he explained. I took a moment to think. This branch and its grapes are hideous and need to be cut off and thrown out, I said. The owner of the garden is very patient with this branch. He and his son have been giving it time to abide in the vine so that it may produce much fruit, he responded. Abide in the vine? Why was this man giving these non conscious organisms human esque characteristics? Joy, the man said cheerfully. What a delightful name. And a reminder, he continued. Yeah, a reminder of the lack of joy I have. Dumb name, I responded. The man ignored the latter of my comment and proceeded to ask me a question. Joy, do you know why you're named Joy? I thought for a moment and then proceeded to answer. My mother said she named me Joy because the Lakers won a championship the day I was born, and she was really happy about it. True story. I wish I were making that up. Hmm, happiness. Something that a lot of people confuse with joy, he responded. Is there really a difference? Tomato, tomato, potato, french fry, same thing, different word? I wittily replied. He again ignored the latter of my comment and replied, happiness is a mood based on circumstances that happen. You might find $1 and get happy, but your mood can quickly change if, say, a restaurant forgets to give you your french fries in the drive thru. Okay, maybe he did ignore the latter part of my comment. But you see, joy cannot be shaken nor moved by circumstances. Joy smiles when the sun is out and finds a reason to smile when the storm comes, he explained. Just as he spoke, a thunderstorm began to form over us, and he handed me a gold umbrella. Was this man like the male Mary Poppins or something? Anyway, I looked around and noticed that the grapes on other branches were still growing despite the weather. Yet the one we were in front of was withering away even more. Then I remembered that he told me he was taking me to my branch. Wait, is this branch symbolic to me in my life? I asked. He didn't respond verbally, but his look told me my answer. Had I really been this ungrateful and bitter in my heart, just like the fading and shriveled up grapes on my branch? Everything started to make sense. I started to realize how bitter and ungrateful I was. Talk about checking yourself before wrecking yourself. How do I produce juicy grapes on my branch? I asked. He looked up to the sky and smiled, then looked at me and responded with one word: abide. I started to wake up to the sweet sound of my 8 a.m. alarm. I felt oddly refreshed as I rolled out of bed, and instead of immediately checking my social media, I picked up my Bible. I kept thinking about that word abide until finally I remembered the passage when Jesus spoke this word, John 15 and 1 through 17. After reading, I said a prayer, none of your business on what it was about, and went to get myself ready for work. The hot water wasn't working as I brushed my teeth, but I was thankful the cold water was still working. I looked at my phone and noticed the date showed the first of the month, so I opened up my apartment complex's app to pay my rent. I thought about the days when I almost got evicted, and thank God that somehow I was able to make rent each time. I ate a bowl of cereal and thought about the times when I went without food in the past. As I left out earlier than normal for work and walked to my car, I noticed my gold bumper was falling off, as it normally did when it rained. It was duct taped together. I reattached it with some duct tape that I kept in my glove compartment, hopped in my car, and kept it moving. I was grateful to have a set of wheels, even if the wheels did have missing hubcaps. I was driving and singing along to gospel music when I saw the man from my dream in real life again. He was sitting on a bench in the park adjacent to the traffic light I was stopped at. He sat there smiling at those passing by, as he normally did. Once the light turned green, I parked my car in the parking lot and started to walk toward him. He smiled at me with what seemed like one of the most genuine smiles I've seen an adult have in ages. I could tell he didn't know me from a can of paint or recognize me. God must have been using him in my dream as a symbol, I thought to myself as I flashed a smile back. I started to approach him, and I noticed he may be homeless. He had a grocery cart next to him with what looked like a folded tent, a comforter, food, a pair of shoes, and other essentials. Maybe I should give him some money, I thought. Hi, sir. Here's a few dollars, I said as I handed him the $3 I had in my pocket. He put his hand out, not to grab the money, but to decline. No, thank you, ma'am. I have everything I need, he said. The bright yellow sun began to shine on him. He looked at the birds, then at the wildflowers, then looked up at the sky and started to smile even more. I looked up at the sky too and joyfully smiled. Here is the list of scripture to read for this story: John 15 and 1 through 8, Matthew 6 and 25 to 34, 1 Thessalonians 5 and 16 through 18, and Luke 13 and 6 through 9. Abide in Jesus always, and you will bear much fruit.